Okay, good day everyone, and welcome to this third webinar of a series in which we're covering different topics about education and its link to real-world issues and topics in general that are interesting for both our students, our families, and members of the SEK-Riyadh community. I am Ivan Martinez, SEK-Riyadh principal, and will be acting as your host today. Today we'll be focusing on well-being and mindfulness. To do so, I'm very happy to welcome our two speakers today, both of them experts in the field of mindfulness, Dr. Marian de la Morena and Dr. Asma AlKusayer. Thank you very much for your time today. Good evening.
Thank you very much, Ivan. Pleasure to be with you, with all of you.
Let me give you a bit more of insight. Marian de la Morena holds a PhD in psychology and a master's in marketing and business from ESIC University. In 2016, she was awarded a grant to study leadership in the US at UCLA University, UCLA. And currently she is the head of the Be Well Center for Wellbeing and Balance at Camilo José Cela University, UCJC in Madrid, where she also teaches emotional intelligence and team management, among other subjects. Welcome, Mariam, and thank you very much for your time today.
Pleasure, as I said.
Dr. Asma is an assistant professor of clinical psychology at King Saud University of Health Sciences in Riyadh, where she has held different positions throughout her career, and she has also done her PhD thesis in mindfulness. Welcome and thank you very much for your time today, Dr. Asma.
Thank you, Ivan.
Okay, so today our webinar is going to be a bit different. If you've attended other webinars, you've seen that it was mainly presentation based, but we wanted to today to share with you ideas, experience in a different way. So what we're going to do is I have some questions I will be asking our speakers. If you would like to participate with questions, please, there's a chat. Feel free to write any doubts, questions, ideas you'd like our speakers to discuss in the chat. It will surely enrich the discussion today. So it will be more of a conversation today. So let's get started. Are you ready, Dr. Asma, Dr. Marian? Yes.
Let's do it.
Great. My first question is, well, feel free, both of you as well, Marian, Asma, to answer distinctly. Yeah? Probably, Marian, you would be happy to answer to this question, and is we're talking about mindfulness, but not all of us are familiar with mindfulness. If you could tackle what is mindfulness and how does it contribute to well-being, Dr. Marian, and then Dr. Asma, if you want to intervene as well, that'd be great.
Yes, thank you, Ivan. Well, let me use words that, well, first of all, hello to all of you. I think it is not necessary to say it, but well, I would like to also thank you for being here, paying attention to the things that we are going to share and co-create together. Because the interesting thing of these opportunities to share information is not only to tell you things we know, but maybe to co-create together with your questions, with the things that you consider are going to impact your lives and are going to be important for you as individuals and also as families. And as Ivan was suggesting this definition, I'm going to use, as I was saying, words by Jon Kabat-Zinn. Probably the fact that we are now here gathering together, talking about mindfulness, we owe Mr. Kabat-Zinn a lot. Jon Kabat-Zinn, I don't know if you're familiar with this name. He used to be responsible, the head of the medical center at Massachusetts University in the 70s and the 80s. And as head of a medical institute in the US, he was very stressed. I suppose that we can all identify with this feeling, no? When things are pressing us, jobs or our families, all the things we have to pay attention to, stress us. So Mr. Kabat-Zinn was familiar with certain practices that he had, discovered in his youth when he visited India and other countries. And then he thought maybe using them can help me. So he started to, revisit again these practices, and he saw that they were benefiting him a lot. And then his second thought was, well, if this is so useful for me, it's probably going to be very useful for my patients. It's probably going to be very useful for my colleagues, for all the doctors working here who are also very stressed. And so he put together all these things that are inside this umbrella of mindfulness together, and he created a program for stress reduction, which was called Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction Program. And it became so famous that now all of us are talking about mindfulness. So as I was saying, let me use part of his words to explain the concept. And the first thing he says is that mindfulness could be a way to connecting or reconnecting with our lives. So in that sense, it makes, a connection with well-being. If we are connected with our own lives, probably it's much easier for us to get this feeling of fulfillment, of well-being. And continuing with his words, a proper definition for mindfulness, and please don't hesitate to ask or interrupt if you don't understand or there are things that don't sound clear to you. The definition he was using was paying attention on purpose to the present moment, non-judgmentally, and then he adds, ironically, as if your life depended on it. So these are the basic components of mindfulness. So it's a special way of paying attention on purpose to the present moment, non-judgmentally, that is gently, and then, it is very, very important. So as if your life depended on it. And I also like to use a metaphor. This is my own metaphor. And I don't know how many of you remember the old-fashioned radios. I do remember, maybe because of my age. I remember these old radios. My granny used to have one at home where you needed to dial the frequency we wanted to listen to. So you had to be very careful and gentle to move the dial so as to correctly connect with the frequency you wanted to listen to. So this is kind of similar. So we need to gently adjust our attention to the present moment. Because now let me ask you, how many times are we really paying attention to what we are doing now, in the present moment, here, now? How many times are we, dealing with past events? How many times are we anticipating what is going to come? So mindfulness reminds us gently to go back to this old-fashioned radio and using, the dial, adjust the frequency to what is happening here and now. And this is it. Because maybe your question would be, paying attention to the present moment, to what? What should I be paying attention to? This is really secondary. So the most important thing is that you gently remember, it's the fact of paying attention to the present moment is what is important. And well, let's hope that with this conversation we are going to have together, this idea of paying attention on purpose, non-judgmentally, to the present moment, as if your life depended on it, becomes clearer. I don't know, Asma, if you would like to probably clarify better what I've just tried to explain.
Beautifully said. It's like shifting from being on autopilot to being actually conscious and present. It's like shifting from being just on the doing and the moving, just being and slowing down, pausing, just being. I like the image, I was just reading, if you have a hill and the hill had a lot of grass and rocks and things, and then you have a rock, you want to put it down the hill. It's hard for you at the beginning to push it. There's a lot of grass, it goes down, and then again you do it. The rock will go the same pathway, and then again you do it, and then there's a pathway that's created. And that's actually what we're doing with mindfulness. We're creating that pathway in our mind to be able to just access it when we need it, to just be able to shift to the being mode, slowing down.
Yes, yes. I don't know if you would agree that it could be like a wiser relationship with things that are going on in our lives, and not being on the mercy of our own emotional reactions, as you were saying, some crazy thoughts that sometimes all of us have. So we are not at the mercy of them. So it doesn't mean that they are not going to be there, because they are going to be there. We need to be honest. But we are not at the mercy of them. Yes.
Yes, they are definitely going to be there. We're not trying to move them. We're just being aware, becoming aware they exist. Because a lot of times, as you mentioned, we're not aware of them.
And then mercy of them. If we're not aware, then they are probably, directing us where they want. Yeah.
Yes, it's
Thank
like
you,
we're
Marian,
mostly in the passenger seat of our own life.
for this intro. I think it links beautifully with the next question I had, because you've talked about paying attention, and that's key, I think, and that's something we usually don't relate or link with mindfulness. My next question, and being both of you working at universities, myself at a school, being disorganized by an educational group, I wanted to ask, even though I see it now, but I'd like Dr. Asma to explain a bit further, in what way or ways can mindfulness improve learning?
Okay, so there's many research that has been done in mindfulness, and they found that it strengthens the pathways, or like let us say, and neurons that wire together, the famous saying. It strengthens the pathways of areas that are responsible for executive functioning. So let's say it's the prefrontal cortex. We're learning how to pay attention and purpose to things. So instead of us, our awareness, not directing our awareness, it goes here, it goes here, it goes here. We're actually bringing an awareness and paying attention to something that is happening right now. And this gives us the flexibility that we're able to move our awareness. Since we're aware now, like aware how it feels or how to bring our awareness to the present moment, we're able to move it between different things. So I'm aware, for example, I have this thought, or I have that feeling. Okay, I'm aware, I'm conscious, I'm noticing it, but I'm also able to perform whatever I'm performing and not letting it take over. So it helps us to be able to be more in control and shifting our attention, moving our attention from one thing to another. It also gives us that cognitive flexibility with that sense of control of being able to move it. It's also the hippocampus, improves our short-term memory, our attention also to like details, and improves the short-term memory. There's also the amygdala, so we don't become, as Dr. Marian mentioned, we don't become as reactive to our feelings. So I am focused on this task that I have to do right now, but I feel that sense of like, let's say, sadness. So I'm able to become conscious about it and aware of it, and aware of the thoughts and the feelings that are coming, but also being able to do the task that I am doing. I'm not just being reactive, being more able to respond. So all of these like things that can improve our learning. And there has been studies that people that are introduced to mindfulness, maybe their academic performance will improve around like 66% from people that haven't been introduced to mindfulness practices. And this is a big percentage. I don't know, Dr. Marian, it's your field, you've been researching it for a while. Have you learned something about learning through the continuous research that you'd like to share with us?
For sure, all the things you are saying are very important, because, the fact that we tell these ideas is okay. I suppose that our audience, all of them, are going to accept what we say, but at the same time, what we can also show is that there are lots of scientific articles proving what Dr. Asma has just shared with you. So we can talk about the science behind mindfulness. And then going back to Dr. Kabat-Zinn, we can say The second reason why we are now discussing about mindfulness is the fact that he was able to use all the technological advancements of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, the medical center that was at his disposal. So he was able to measure the brain of all the people who were following his program. So by checking all these brain activity, he was able to scientifically demonstrate what Dr. Asma was saying, the fact that the amygdala, mindfulness practices dampen activity in our amygdala. The amygdala is responsible for reaction. It's good to have it. So we are not saying that the amygdala is not necessary, but what is not good is when we allow the amygdala to make decisions for ourselves, you know? So the fact that we practice mindfulness helps us, and it also helps to create connections between the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex. So I'm sure that all these terms are very scientific and probably, well, you say they are interesting, you know, and it is what's giving us the opportunity to be telling you about mindfulness, but probably giving it, you know, a more like day-to-day approach. We can say that the brain is plastic, you know, plastic. So we can modify different areas in the brain. And let me use one also, a sentence that was pronounced by Dr. Santiago Ramón y Cajal. He was from Spain. He was a Nobel Prize for Medicine, and he was probably considered, he is considered, we can say, that he's the father of neuroscience. And long time ago, in the beginning of the 20th century, he said that we are the sculptors of our own brain. So if we have the opportunity to sculpt our own brain, mindfulness is one tool, one very, very effective tool to help us, you know, design this sculpture and design it so that it is very beneficial for us. So I couldn't agree more, Dr. Asma, with what we were saying, for sure.
And it's interesting that also impacts the quality of decision making, because the person is better able to reason, better able to like perceive, so more responsible decision making.
Yes, more responsible because we are aware. This is what you were saying. So it's not that we react. And this is the same. I suppose the traffic must be complicated in Riyadh. I suppose it's probably the same as in Madrid, no? So how many times do we find ourselves while we are driving that we are reacting, you know, that our impulses are, oh my God, you know, I could kill him, I could kill. And mindfulness allows us to, you know, of course, acknowledge what is going on, acknowledge the traffic is terrible, or acknowledge that the situation is terrible, maybe a discussion, you know, but then, you know, we can like keep a distance, probably breathe. That is what we are going to do at the end of today's webinar. Take a distance and then make a wise decision. What Dr. Asma was saying, make a responsible decision, not just a reaction. This is very important. Isn't it, Dr. Asma, the fact that we make a difference between reaction and responding?
Between the stimulus and the response.
Yes, yes, instead of a reaction and response. And going back to the first definition of mindfulness, if we are aware that we have reacted, then we gently, and this is why we were using the term non-judgmentally, because then we are not supposed to, you know, having like negative talk with us, saying, oh, again, you are reacting, oh, blah, blah, you are silly, or you are incapable. No, it's just acknowledging, oh, okay, I'm reacting. Let me choose a response. So this is, you know, the non-judgmentally and gently way, the thing that I was saying about the old-fashioned radio, no, when we had to gently adjust the frequency. This is kind of similar. And this is what
to be more.
Yes.
Things here, Marian and Asma. Thank you very much for your reflections on this regard, and I'm very happy that Dr. Asma and also Marian, you brought up science. As a biologist myself, I do like to look at mindfulness from this scientific perspective as well. I have a couple of more questions, and later on we can tackle. There are some questions on the chat, and actually the one they just asked is linked to my last question. So let me ask you one more question, and then we'll just mix my questions and the chats, because you brought up science. And I was wondering as well, and probably I'll give the word later to Dr. Asma and afterwards to Marian, what are common misconceptions or myths when it comes to mindfulness? Dr. Asma.
So mindfulness, when it first originated, it originated from, as Dr. Marian mentioned, Dr. Kabat-Zinn, when he brought it, there was this concern: is it related to Buddhism? Is it related to a certain religion? But when when Kabat-Zinn brought it, he made it more of a secular practice that any person can access it. I actually did my doctor project, as you mentioned, about mindfulness practice in the Islamic society, and it's something that people commonly practice, but they're not aware of it. So it was a way to bring consciousness to their daily practices. So they do it in purpose, in a specific way, to practice mindfulness. So mindfulness is not related to any religion. It's not related to Buddhism. It's just a way of life. It's just something that you can implement just to be able to benefit from its wide benefits of well-being, being able to manage ruminative thoughts, being able to manage the feeling of being stuck, the negative self-talk. So it is not related to any religion, but some people have mentioned that out of concern, does it belong to a specific? No, you would see it in different religions. You would see it without a religion. You would see it in like people that are spiritual. So it's a very universal thing that is not related to a certain religion. If you want to add something to that, Dr. Marian.
Excellent. It's totally true what you are saying. Probably the first misconception is the association with religion. And there, I mean, no religious association. It is respectful to whatever people want to believe. No, it's as you are saying, being aware, being conscious of ourselves. And once we have developed this inner connection, then of course the way we relate to our environment is so influenced. This is also why I like to say that mindfulness is a concept that we have tried to explain, giving definitions together, and also from an academic perspective. No, we can talk about definitions. Mindfulness is a concept. Then mindfulness is a practice, because this is special kind of attention that seems to be like very simple. I don't know if it seems simple, no, but at first, you know, paying attention is something that it shouldn't be very, very complicated. But sometimes it is, and probably because of the influence of modern times, you know, this excess of information, this infoxication, it's a term that I have coined. It doesn't exist, but I like to talk about infoxication, that is like an excess of information. And all these, you know, affects our thoughts and affects the way we relate to ourselves. So mindfulness is a practice in the sense of helping us, the same as when we go to the gym, you know, to keep fit. It's the same as a practice to help us remember to pay attention to the present moment. So we can say that mindfulness is a practice. And also psychologists, and please, Dr. Asma, you can continue with this, are agreeing that it is also a trait. So a trait would be what defines our personalities. Maybe you would like to expand on this idea of mindfulness becoming a trait, a way to relate with reality. I don't know.
Yes, it just becomes like a trait. Becomes like I've seen it. A lot of people that practice mindfulness, it becomes a lifestyle. I remember when I was first introduced to mindfulness, I was very young, and I remember every time we sit at the lunch table, like my dad starts mentioning, "Oh, we have carrots, we have cucumber, we have tomatoes." Like that is just a salad, but he just wants us just to be present in that experience of being mindfully eating what we had, and I just took it for granted. But as life went on, I just realized that. It really depends on what you've been exposed to, what you've been practicing, what has been conditioned. So it is something that a person can incorporate in their life, and it can become their lifestyle or something they do, any other thing that they do in life.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much for your reflections again. Let's go back to, learning, to education, and specifically to schools. And we have a question linked to that that's very specific. I don't know if you can read it on the chat. I'll ask a general one, and then probably we can focus on
Ivan, if I can just ask Dr. Marian, because I know she's an expert like in the field of mindfulness. I want to ask her about a common misconception that usually people associate with, that they feel that mindfulness is relaxation, mindfulness is meditation. I feel this is a very important.
This is very important. Another misconception. We can say that relaxation is like a side effect, a positive side effect of mindfulness. So it's not relaxation, but of course, when we practice mindfulness, and it makes sense, if we, instead of paying attention to this noise, that our thoughts may, arise in us, and we like come down and gently return to the present, to what we're doing, to what needs our real attention, then of course we get relaxed, we calm down. It's obvious, no? So it's a consequence of mindfulness.
So mindfulness, like as we introduce, is a practice. You feel meditation and other practices, they're just helping us, but they're not mindfulness in themselves. They're just helping us to reach that ability to be mindful.
Yes, this is the going to the gym. And we, at least in our university, we talk about two big blocks of practice. We talk about formal practice, and then formal practice could be, associated to meditation. But meditation doesn't mean that you need to adopt a specific posture or, remembering these or Japanese or, Oriental techniques. No, you can meditate just sitting in your couch. And then, calming down thoughts and connecting with the here and the now. This is the big block of formal practice. And then we also talk about informal practice, what we can do in our everyday lives. We can enjoy a real walk, paying attention to, I don't know, the surroundings. I don't know, the trees or, the kinds of landscapes you must have, the gorgeous landscapes you must have in your country. And how many times we have taken walks in places without paying attention. I usually invite my students to revisit places that they habitually, go along, but paying attention on purpose. And it's incredible to see the number of things they discover that have been there for ages and they hadn't noticed. So this is mindfulness.
Very true. I know, Ivan, I want to move to the next question, but there's another misconception that I would like Dr. Marian, because I'm sure it's universal misconceptions. They think that with practicing mindfulness, you actually practicing giving up, becoming passive, and just taking on that role. What are your thoughts on that?
This is a very interesting question. And this question usually comes when people start to get more acquainted, and we talk about the different attitudes. And one very important attitude is acceptance, letting go, and non-striving. So then as students, the typical question, so we don't have to make an effort. We have to just, give up. And it's not the same. It is the opposite. Because when we accept what is going on, then we are more ready to provide creative solutions to problems. This is the difference. When there is a problem and we start, connecting with the problem, oh my God, this is my problem, blah, 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 then we are focused on the problem. And mindfulness invites us to acknowledge the problem, accept the problem, it's there. Now, let me think about ways to find solutions. If there are no solutions, the problem stays there. It doesn't make sense to waste my energy because my energy is limited. And this is why mindfulness also correlates in scientific studies with an increase in creativity levels. This is one reason that helps us understand why creativity is enhanced when we practice mindfulness. I don't know if you want to add something, because this is fascinating.
Yes. I like the image of, I'm sure you heard the image of the glitter jar. Like usually we use it with kids when we fill it with water and then sparkly glue and then glitter, and then you shake it, you can't see through it. So that's how it feels when we're just, yes.
I have something here. This is a souvenir from other countries, so I don't know if this makes a lot of sense for you, but it's a nice souvenir that usually kids love. So you do this, you know, and then what happens? You can see nothing, you know, it's like the glitter. So what mindfulness helps us do is, you know, let all these deposit, and then we are able to see through and provide more creative solutions, more creative ideas. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, Dr. Asma. It's true that these two common misconceptions are very interesting to tackle them, at least, because it's true that when we, the people who are not familiar with mindfulness might think about that. And I see you're prepared, Marian, with your literature there.
Waiting for Dr. Asma to give me the opportunity.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much. Now let's then, if you wish, move to or focus a bit more on schools. I wanted to ask, in general, how can mindfulness help schools, students, and families? How is it useful in a school environment? In general, I'm going to ask both of you. And then we'll specifically tackle this question Ms. Sarah Mohammed shared on the chat.
Please, Dr. Asma, go ahead. You are, I think, the expert, the real expert here.
I would really benefit also from your input, but what I notice and how it can benefit schools is when you introduce anything, as Dr. Marian mentioned, you want it to be consistent. You want to build that pathway in your mind. So schools can introduce them in kids-friendly ways. Kids can be part of the conversation. What works with them, what does not work, because as there are different tools to help us practice mindfulness, there are things that will work with some people and others will not. For example, meditation, and some of its form might work for certain kids, but other forms do not. So to make it kids-friendly, make it bite-size, and it's not like takes 20, 30 minutes. It can take a minute, it can take 3 minutes, and consistency. And with consistency, it can help schools in transition periods. Like, for example, coming back from lunch or beginning the school day. If you can connect it with these times, it becomes like you're building the expected. Kids will expect it at that time. You start building that kind of routine. And sometimes I like the concept of quiet time. And if teachers can introduce quiet time, for example, coming back from lunch or whatever, we have 10 minutes. So they explain it to kids. So quiet time is just you choosing anything you want to color, you want to read a book. It's just a quiet time that you get to sit with yourself. And that quiet time helps kids to just be in the present moment and just feel the feeling between just moving and just settling their body. And the teacher can mention that, can walk them through it, and you can notice that these feelings come to you, etc. And this improves the students' ability to engage, increases the readiness to learn, and helps them through those transition. And very helpful, even if the whole school can participate in that, from that the management to the teachers themselves, because when kids observe that and see it, it motivates them to be able to do that themselves. It's different than when you say do something, but you don't really connect with it and you don't know how it feels. So I don't know if Dr. Marian, you want to add something?
Yes, for sure. I was just going to add, if parents are interested, they can check websites. For example, Mindful Schools in the US. It's a very interesting program for schools. And then Mindfulness in Schools in the UK. And they provide integrated approaches. And they want to create healthier school cultures where every person feels involved, engaged, and ready to learn and lead mindfully. In SEK and UCAC, we have also developed our own state-of-the-art program, which is called CRAFT. CRAFT stands for creativity. The R stands for relaxation, you know, the side effect. Then the A is attention, that is mindfulness. Then F for fulfillment, and T for transcendency. Because we also like to invite our students to try and leave a footprint, make them aware that with their unique contributions, they can transform, benefit, contribute to make a better world. So yes, there are many programs that are already going on in different schools all over the world, and they have proven to be very, very successful, both, as Dr. Asma was saying, for students, but also for the whole of the school body. I think this is essential. This point you mentioned is very important, because it doesn't make sense to try and integrate mindfulness into children with teachers who are not. I'm sure that it's obvious now that we are together co-creating this concept of mindfulness. Does it make sense now to have a teacher like, you have to do this, and a very stressed teacher, and then to make students, children more aware. So as Dr. Asma was saying, all these programs are aimed at the whole of the school body.
Thank you, Dr. Asma and Marian. It's interesting and many ideas to implement for sure. So let's tackle this question Ms. Sarah Mohammed shared. How can mindfulness be used to support school children aged 10, 11, 12 as they approach puberty with all the emotional, physical changes that happen?
Well, maybe you want to go ahead, Dr. Asma.
Yeah, I want you to go ahead, Dr. Marian. I'm very curious.
Yes. This age is very, very special. And my suggestion would be to have schools starting at a lower age. In fact, at SEK schools, we are pioneering preschool integration of mindfulness practices. And we are following, a year where we started with very, very little children to see the way they are developing. But with a specific question about teenagers, this is probably the question with teenagers. So with teenagers, I think it is easy, but at the same time, we need to be very careful. And considering the fact that the teacher is already mindful, we can invite them. And the responses we have, at least in Spain, are very good. But it needs some time. So teachers can start suggesting, a time to stop and breathe, for example, and using exercises similar to the one we would like to introduce with you, but adapted to teenagers. So introducing these stop and breathe routines are very useful. Then it's also important to make them aware to express their own emotions. There is another scientific evidence that shows that mindfulness enhances emotional regulation. So we talk about emotional regulation, not emotional control. So it is also very important that we invite them to express their emotions, and we also give them the opportunity to show, and then regain this idea of adjusting, that they are also able to balance the way they express their emotion. And the fact that they try to control or repress them is not going to benefit them. So it's not easy to answer this question briefly. So the idea would be to try and implement a program that is both supported by the school, and then at the same time giving families the opportunity to get this support. What we usually have is parents' support when we are introducing mindfulness. And it's also very funny, because with the programs we are introducing at SEK schools in Madrid, there are many parents that come to us saying, oh, our children are telling us things they are doing at schools that we could do at home, that we are finding them very interesting. So sometimes are, the very students, the ones who are telling their parents how beneficial it is to introduce mindfulness as a daily practice. So I don't know, Dr. Asma, if you want to build on.
Yeah, beautifully said. I just would like a reminder, and even when we explore their feelings, we invite them to explore their feelings. We want to invite them to do that gently and kindly, because a lot of the times, I've noticed there might be cultural differences that when it comes to noticing our thoughts or noticing our emotions, we tend to judge it. We tend not to just observe it or notice it. We tend to judge it, and then that starts a cycle of reacting to it. and becoming consumed by it, or feeling that I am that feeling or I am that thought. Just observing and noticing it, and not gently and kindly. And there are a lot of practices that invite that. Like, for example, let's say if you like when you're breathing, to think of a person that you care about. What do you want to? What's the message you want to send to them? It just teaches them. And then, if you remember a time where you were feeling tired, and what would you like to send yourself a message of love or kindness, just to train the mind to talk to oneself in a kind and compassionate way. For practices that I find that are helpful for all age groups, one that you're going to introduce, Dr. Marian, the breathing, but there's also like other things that you can do at any point that helps kids understand that concept. For example, let's say, like they like hot chocolate, or they like to eat pizza or whatever. So just when in that process, just for example, asking them to take a deep breath and just blow at that pizza to cool it down, and then take that deep breath and blow at the pizza or blow at the hot chocolate to cool it down. And this is associated to something that they like, it's something they can do. So next time they're eating something hot or warm, they just remember that, and then they just do it maybe unconsciously. There's another practice that I like also with kids, is imagining their hand as a starfish, and just breathing normally as they trace their hands. That just gets them back into their body, and being aware of that sensation, tactile sensation, and being comfortable in their breathing. There is another things that I know Kabat-Zinn also mentioned, mentioning the stop technique, is that where you just stop whatever you're doing. And with kids, I like to associate it with poses. Like, for example, pose like your favorite character, like suddenly stop and they pose. So when they pose, you ask them to take a breath, and then just communicate to you what they observe, their thoughts, their feeling, if they want to, or they just can observe it between them and themselves, and then go on to life, proceed. Whether you want to go to what you're doing, or you've noticed a feeling that you want to talk with someone, or you've noticed that you want to take a space, or you want to pause. So just giving them that ability to just connect with something fun, something that they're kind of like excited to do or look forward to doing it. And there's that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And it's nice when you do that senses to just like ask them like their favorite character and how they're helping the world. So I want you to put on, for example, like the Spider-Man senses, whatever. Now, what do you see with your Spider-Man eyes? Like, oh, I see those 5 things. What do you feel or experience? I experience those 4 things. So what do you hear? If you tune on your senses, I hear these sounds. What do you there's also the taste, and there's also the smell. So just, it's very kids friendly, and things that you can do, as you mentioned, Dr. Riyadh, families can be part of it, and it's just like fun. Let's do them on the go. So kids just get comfortable. Their brains, the pathway starts getting paved, and they become comfortable in doing it when they're feeling different emotions, when they're feeling overwhelmed, when they can't see. I like that imagery. They can't see.
Yes. And to conclude, we can say that the training aims at helping individuals, and in this case, teenagers, realize that they are not their thoughts. They are not their emotions. They are not their body sensations. They are there. But I am the one who observes these thoughts, these emotions that come and go. This is the only real truth. They come and go. And it's also my decision, what you were saying before. And I can use this decision making in a wise way. It's my decision to choose. And sometimes it's not easy. Today, for example, if I have time to tell a very short anecdote that happened today. I was, we had an exam at university, and at the end of the exam, one student came to me. She was very affected. She was crying. She was saying that she had a problem at home, that she couldn't study and concentrate, that probably the exam wasn't as good as she could have been. And then she was also complaining about other students who were not treating her correctly, and that she would have to help another student. And then, after listening to her, I told her, look, but you are saying that this very student was very helpful. And then there were other group of students who were not. Why don't you, let me make a suggestion, because this is your decision, but why not, instead of concentrating on the group of students who were not treating you correctly, you feel grateful for the student who's always been there, supporting you, your friend, helping you, and at the same time you helping her. And then she was like, you know, some minutes of thought and said, you are right. And I don't know why we tend to, when these things happen, we tend to choose the negative, the, you know, the problems, the people who are not helping us, and the ones who are there helping, it's just, well, right? And with mindfulness,
yes,
this is what we learn in the end, no? And this is very, very useful for teenagers.
Yeah, the image that usually comes to mind is the flashlight. Your awareness is the flashlight. So you took the flashlight to there. So what about this? She was able to go there with you now, the cognitive flexibility.
It's another metaphor. Unfortunately, I have a torch with me here, but it's same as what I have shared. We can have a torch, and with a torch, we can decide the place we want to give light to. All things are there, but it is my wise decision to choose where I focus the light, where I concentrate. This is mindfulness. Wouldn't you agree, Dr. Asma, that this is mindfulness, this capacity?
Exactly. Yes.
Thank you very much for this nice set of strategies. I think now we're taking something practical that I will implement myself and with my 12 years old as well, 11. So that was a very nice, very interesting question. And thank you for all of the resources and ideas, Dr. Asma and Marian. I think it's interesting. We have just 10 minutes till the end of the webinar. And to finalize, I know Dr. Marian prepared a brief activity, practical activity, to help us get a better idea of what a mindfulness exercise or activity could be. So, Marian, we are all yours.
Yes, the only problem is that I don't know why, but this is probably mindfulness. My computer doesn't want to connect with the music I had prepared. So give me 1 second, and if there is no music, because as we were saying, you know, Dr. Asma was making it very clear that senses play a very important role in mindfulness. So what we see, what we hear, what we smell, all play a very important role. So the fact that we can play these exercises with music makes a difference. So give me just 1 second to see if I can readjust my computer so that music is accessible. I think so. I think the computer has responded mindfully, and we are going to be able to enjoy some music. So, well, I don't know if you're ready. When you are ready, I'm ready.
I think we are, Marian.
Can you hear? Can you get this gently sound?
Not yet.
Maybe it's not loud enough. No?
No. We can't hear, Marian. Do you have a link that I can?
Yes, I sent it to Jesus, but I don't know if it's not possible to use the music, we can do it without music. It would be much better with music, but if technology doesn't allow us, maybe this means that we need another time to repeat it with music. Is it possible to get the music, Ivan or Jesus?
Yeah, Marian, I was trying to do, but I thought it's not possible. So I will share the link with that music through this chat.
Please.
Okay, give me a second. Here's the link. Okay, you can find the link in the chat.
If you play it, do you think it's going to work? Well, if it doesn't, it doesn't. And I think this is acceptance, no? So I think that I need to lead by example. So when something happens that we cannot, transform, we just need to provide creative solutions. And the creative solution that probably this mindfulness webinar is inviting me to suggest is to accept that we are not going to have music. Okay, so let us.
Marianne, the music can be played by participants, and they can play it and while you're talking, so you can just signal to them, like just put the music on.
Okay.
Yeah, because I tried it, it's working. Yeah.
So let us start. Thank you for gifting yourselves these next few minutes. It is important to remember that you are a priority, and allowing yourselves a few minutes of intentional reflection can really have a positive impact on your life. Let's use these moments to come back to center and setting an intention for the rest of this day. Please try and move into a comfortable position. Whether you are sitting at a couch, a sofa, or a chair, and please gently close your eyes if you feel comfortable with your eyes closed. Shift all your attention onto your breathing. Taking slower, deeper breaths than the ones you've taken all day so far. Taking a deep breath in through your nose and slowly letting it out through your mouth. And continue to breathe that way. Feeling your lungs expand as you inhale and contract back as you exhale. Now connect with your body, noticing gently how it feels. Is there anything your body is trying to tell you? Notice any place or tension or tightness in your body. And give those areas permission to relax, sending love into those areas. Say thank you to your body for being there and taking good care of you. And let it know that it is okay to rest and relax for these minutes. You may notice that your mind starts to wander off. If a thought comes up, acknowledge it and gently let it go. That's okay. That's natural. Just notice the thought and bring your attention back to your body, using your breath as your anchor. Now, please try to bring back one situation today that has made you smile or made you feel grateful. Just let this feeling fill you up for a moment. Breathe this moment from the top of your head to the tip of your toes. And allow yourself to smile, if that feels natural. Now think about something you can still do today that enables you to continue with this feeling. It can be something simple, such as deciding to go to bed early or continue reading that book that has been on your bedside table. Or maybe the joy of having dinner with your family. What is this one little thing you can plan for today that can bring this little joy to your life? Now sit in that feeling of joy and peace. Now, let's take a few deep breaths together. A deep breathe in, filling your lungs, expand out as you inhale. And contract back in as you exhale. Do it again, and even deeper, holding that breath. Last time, your deepest breath, sending it to your entire body and exhaling out. And in your own time, slowly bringing your awareness to where you are now, and thanking yourself for this few minutes. When you feel like it, you can gently open your eyes and enjoy the rest of your day after all the care that you've given yourself.
Well, thank you very much, Marian. I believe I'm gonna watch this recording very often now.
Well, unfortunately, it was without music. With proper music, you know, it is more like inviting this special concentration that we are inviting people to pay, and it is even stronger. But well, hopefully the attendees have been able to play the music, and if not, they have the music at their disposal, because the music is very, very helpful. And what happens is when we practice with music, then only the music can help us regain this special type of attention. Just the music acts as an anchor at the same time as the breathing is helping us. Absolutely. Well, I don't know if you would like to share if the experience was fulfilling, because it was, you know, it's not easy without music to direct this type of practices.
No, but it was great because we played the music, and I believe it was we were able to do it and to enjoy it with the music. I don't know if someone would like to share. I know you might have some other appointments, but there's just a quick question, Marian, for you. Are there any mindfulness scripts that you would recommend? I assume guidance or...
Yes, there are many. I would recommend all books by Jon Kabat-Zinn. Kabat-Zinn is spelled with K-A-B-A-T and then Z-I-N-N. He has a book that is especially designed for families. It's for bringing mindfulness practices to the family. And he also has books that introduce the concept. Then the title is now coming to me in Spanish, but he has a very, very good book that is about the way we deal with crisis. So seeing crisis, life crisis, moments of life when we are experiencing difficulties. And in this book, he shares with us the possibility of seeing these crises as opportunities. And it's very, very interesting. But I would say that this is probably a higher level. So maybe start with this mindfulness for families. And then maybe Dr. Asma, it's going to be easier for you since you are in the same country. So maybe you have books that are probably more accessible that you can recommend.
Not really. For me, I go to like any more universal books. I just want to share, Dr. Maria, I'm so grateful. I put on the music, and when you said something you're grateful for today, I'm like grateful for that opportunity to do that. So
thank you.
Yes.
Well, then it is past time. I thank you very much, Dr. Marian. Thank you very much, Dr. Asma. I think it was a great session and webinar today, and we're taking a lot of ideas and practical ideas as well that we can implement at school, at home with our kids. So thank you very much. And for the attendees, just remind you that please stay tuned for new webinars, new activities coming from SEK-Riyadh. And thank you very much as well for enjoying this evening with us. And if you're watching the recording, I hope you enjoy the session as well. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. You too. Pleasure. Bye. Take care.
You too.